are much, much more profound. I'm not going to say a lot about that because I think when we're talking about that, certainly her work and experience in that area is paradigmatic for the rest of us. I think that when citizens start to feel of this as a human right, they take an attitude about it that's a little bit more akin to their outrage when somebody's tortured than is currently the case in many countries. And I think it also fundamentally alters the official model. At the click of a button, you can access hundreds, perhaps thousands of pages about the pyramids, exploring in intimate detail every aspect of life at the time and the financial structure and so on and so forth. I mean, the change is radical, and I think it has resulted in a huge shift in thinking. When I was a child, we looked at information as somehow a rare and valued resource, which there wasn't that much around. And it's different now. The other day, I was sitting in my living room, and my 11-year-old son came in with the kids share. They have their own laptop, which is Wi-Fi enabled. He plunked himself down on the sofa, opened it up, and I wasn't really paying much attention to him, but after about 2 minutes I could hear some sounds of frustration and disgruntlement coming from him. So I said, "Oh, what's wrong?" And he was furious because in the 2 minutes that he'd spent, he couldn't find any information about endangered bird species in Nova Scotia, which is the little tiny province where we live. Of course, the information was there, he just couldn't be bothered to type enough keywords to get it, which is another change of attitude in the youth. But the point is that his attitude about information was, I should be able to access whatever I want immediately and for free. That is a fundamental shift in change of attitude. I think there are also huge changes in attitude about privacy and reputation and sort of being online and out there. I'll tell briefly, because I can see the chair itching now, a story of when I first went on Facebook, and some friends at work had said to me, you know, we should look at this tool as something we can use to promote our work. So I had, sometimes got requests from people to become a friend, so I tagged one, became a friend, and went online and spent a couple of hours browsing around trying to figure out what it did. I was mystified and sort of forgot about it. And about 3 weeks later, I was at a dinner party, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, Toby, I see you only have one friend on Facebook." I was mortified. I thought, oh my God, I'm exposed to the whole world, naked and lonely. And I immediately went back and tagged everybody I could to become my friend. I should say that I'm still not up to my level of my friends, and I would ask you if you could please help me by becoming my friend, so I can at least stay ahead of my son for a little bit longer. Obviously he's going to overtake me soon. But younger generations have a fun. I felt like this was sort of a privacy issue for me, and then I immediately worried, what can people see about me on Facebook and whatever. Kids these days, they put everything on. I shouldn't say kids, and probably many of you do it as well, but there's been a fundamental shift in attitude about that. We don't mind being out there and online. And this, I think, also has very profound implications for secrecy. I started by saying that 10 years ago, nobody, or almost nobody, there was a very small degree of recognition in the idea that access to information is a fundamental human right. And I will finish by saying that I think in another 10 years, they will wonder how it could ever be that we didn't recognize this as a right. Thank you. So, my view has always been that the right to information underpins all other rights. Of course, the right to life, but also the right to development, the right to freedom of expression. You think of the use that the press makes of the freedom of information rule, or other people to expose these things. The right to participate, you can participate in that information. The right to development itself. So I think it's, it underpins all other rights, and indeed democracy itself. So certainly the right to life, but by no means exclusively. That you need to analyze your situation very carefully. For example, in Mexico, which is, along with India, is one of the really leading global success stories on the right to information, it was kind of the exact opposite phenomenon that what happened in India, which was a very grassroots movement In Mexico, the Fox administration came in after 65 years of PRI rule, change of government after 65 years of one-party state, basically, and said we're going to vote in on a platform of openness and basically drop the law from on high. I mean, it's, you know, set up a very high-powered elite group of specialists and whatever, but he didn't have any skeletons in the closet, because he hadn't been in government at all forever. So, you know, he was open to that idea. And so, I mean, I think you need to really, and I think civil servants, it's very important to try to manage that situation well. In Canada, we have managed it badly, and I mean, managed, including everyone, and the activists as well, were very sort of confrontational and generated immediate hostility from the civil servants. And we need to be very clear, in the end of the day, no matter how good a law you have, if the civil servants are adamantly opposed to it, they will have a lot of power to screw around. They can't override in the end because, you know, you have your mechanisms, but they can monkey around in a lot of ways that really deny it. So, and whereas in the UK, for example, they really work closely with the civil service unions to try to show them, and in the end of the day, it's true. If you're a corrupt civil servant, of course the law will not be different, but most civil servants are not corrupt. And if you're a decent civil servant, actually the law can protect you, it can help improve your relationship, it can protect you against any faults, because sometimes civil servants get direct for things they don't deserve, and openness will help them to defend themselves. And, you know, it will give them the proper career draft that they should have, they can use it for that purpose, it will improve relations with the citizens. So actually for civil servants, once they come around to accepting the idea of openness, which is a bit of a jump, but once they get there, they can be brought on board. And the civil service unions in the UK, for example, were strongly supporting the law. So I think it's really kind of taking sometimes NGOs kind of knee-jerk into a confrontational role. I think we need to look for our allies where we can find them, and I think the civil service is potentially an ally, and politicians